Creative Recovery is a research report written by researchers at King's College London in collaboration with the World Cities Cultural Forum, which is a network of policymakers and cultural leaders in 41 cities around the world who support the cultural life of their cities. And this research has been exploring the experience of COVID within those cities, how policymakers and cultural leaders supported the cultural life of those cities and the implications of that experience for the future.
So the research involved gathering our own data and using some existing World Cities Culture Forum data. So that was undertaking focus groups and interviews, our own survey and database of over 250 policy responses from WCCF member cities.
We interrogated that data through three core questions, research questions. The first question was really asking how cultural policymakers had responded to the COVID-19 pandemic and how they were kind of handling that context. So that was question one. Question two was thinking about what was the role of the World City Culture Forum as a global network in supporting those cities. The third question was thinking about what are the implications of these cultural policy responses for post-COVID urban futures. One of the core findings of creative recovery was the kind of sequence of phases. So there were two kind of distinct phases, mitigation and then recovery. The mitigation phase involved a lot of kind of evidence gathering initially, understanding the impact of things like closing all the theatres and kind of public venues, that kind of impact, but also impact on the cultural sector more broadly and indeed the wider city. The recovery phase became more strategic and longer term and was thinking about, in many ways, a relationship with that mitigation phase. So it was what was happening in mitigation that could have a longer legacy.
Amidst the loss and the difficulties of the pandemic, policymakers supporting culture within cities experience new opportunities for innovation in policy, new opportunities for experiment, for iteration, trying things, seeing what works, developing their policies for their particular circumstances. Policymakers also had the opportunity for positive experiences of policy development, and they told us that they want to keep hold of some of these ways of making policy, being able to do it more fleet of foot, with greater agility, at greater speed.
We found that COVID-19 really expanded the scope of what urban cultural policy could be. This included really reassessing and renegotiating whose needs were being met with cultural policy, and cultural policy makers were talking to us about how they were constantly renegotiating what those needs were on a daily basis throughout the crisis. At the same time, were grassroots institutions receiving support as much as those kind of big flagship institutions that we think of in major cities.
Another major finding of the report was that networks and partnerships really mattered, often in ways across parts of city government that hadn't necessarily kind of worked together before, and bringing in a kind of wider and more diverse range of different kind of partners as well. So there were lots of examples of cities working with private sector or with freelancers in quite different ways and building up kind of networks of rapid response expertise.
Through our research, we heard a lot about the anxiety, the worry, the fear that was experienced during the pandemic by cultural policymakers and by the citizens of their cities. But our research also heard about the range of hope that policymakers feel with regards to the future, that they anticipate that the cultural life of cities will be better post-pandemic than it was before. Our research identified a series of conditions that have made it possible for urban cultural policymakers to imagine the future creatively. These included extending the time horizons within which policymakers are thinking about the future beyond the immediate to the longer term future. Secondly, to develop partnerships and networks and supportive relationships that help in thinking about what the future could look like. Thirdly, ensuring effective processes for identifying citizens' needs through processes of consultation. Fourthly, developing effective ways of working with uncertainty, including conditions that allow for hope. Finally, remember what was possible. How the past is handled has consequences for what futures are possible.